Hi there, Phil Simborg with a position from today's Chouette. Again, a Chouette is a game that three or more people play at once. One guy plays by himself against the rest and hopes for the best. And boy, you gotta hope for the best in our Chouette because there's nothing but good players. But even good players make mistakes like this one. It didn't used to be that way. We used to have a lot of fish in the game, but now the fish have either dried up or swum away because it's no longer a secret who's good and who's bad, because we have extreme gammon, and we can tell what the good plays are, and we can tell who has a good PR rating. People get smart enough to realize that it isn't just luck that some guy keeps winning, that it is just skill. So as a result, our Chouettes are really good players, and it's a great learning experience. It's more challenging, but it certainly is more fun. Like I said, in the old days, there were a lot more fish. I didn't used to see that many in the old days, mainly because there wasn't a mirror handy, because I was the fish in the old days. But now I can say that I can hold my own. But positions like this are challenging for all of us. This is red on roll, and it's a money game. And the question is cube action. Should red double? And if red doubles, should blue take or drop? What would you do? What do you think? The answer is it is a double and a take. And in the Chouette, I was fortunate enough that my opponents did not double me, and I was unfortunate enough that they rolled a 5. So the game ended, but I was very happy to, they rolled a 5 and I danced and it was over. I was very, very happy that they didn't double. But here is a really, really good example of Woolsey's Law. And I've talked about it before, but Woolsey's Law is one of the very, very best lessons you'll ever have. If you're thinking about whether to give the cube or not, ask yourself what you would do if you were on the other side. Would you take or would you drop? If the answer is you would drop, of course you double. If the answer is I'm not quite sure if I would take or drop, then of course you double. In this position, a good player would pretty well be sure that he would take the cube. But first you do some analysis. You know that with red on roll coming in from the bar, that if he hits the shot, that's a very, very big thing. He might even win quite a few gammons if he hits the shot. And if he doesn't hit the shot, then blue's got a reasonable game. So that's going to be a major factor. So I don't think there's any good player that would look at this position without actually stopping and taking the time to count shots. Now, if you're a beginner at this and you don't practice counting shots, that could take quite a long time. You know that there's 11 fives, and you got to look at all the combinations and all the combinations that hit this checker as well as the fives. But it should be easier if you use the right strategy to count shots. You should know right off the top of your head that there's 15 fives. Unless they're obstructed, you could hit with 11 fives, and you can hit with a 3-2 or a 2-3. That gets you up to 13. Or you can hit with a 1-4 or a 4-1. So you shouldn't have to count all the combinations to see that this gets hit 15 times. Now all you have to do is count the numbers that don't have a 5 in it that hit this checker. And that's a 1-6. 5-2 we won't count because we've already counted the 5 as a hitter, even though it would hit twice. But it's a 1-6 and a 3-4. So there's 19 shots. There's 4 ways to hit this checker, and there are 15 ways to hit this. That's a little more than half the time that blue gets hit, and when blue gets hit, he's devastated. He's in really bad shape in terms of winning chances and gammon chances. When he doesn't get hit, blue isn't gin, what we call gin, which is he isn't a winner. He's still got to contain red. Red's probably coming in with a 1, 2, or 3. He might roll a 3-6 and come out. He might roll a 1 or 2 and 3 that don't hit. But in any case, blue's still got plenty of work to do to win this game. That's the kind of thinking that would get you to the reasoning that you should double this even though you know your opponent's taking. By the way, some people might drop this cube. That's another factor. If you think you would take and you think it's right to take, it still might be right to double because you might think your opponent might still be a little bit scared. And that's where what I call Simborg's Law comes into play. And that is put yourself in your opponent's shoes and ask yourself what you hope your opponent would not do. Then as my wife would say, do the opposite of whatever she wants. If you think as blue here, you would be crossing your fingers and hoping that red doesn't give the cube, then that's another good strong indication to cube. But if you're sitting here thinking, come on, give me the cube, I'm taking it easy, that's a pretty strong indication not to give the cube. Just to show you the numbers, it's a very big double. Almost a 20% error not to double. Now, they rolled a 5. I forget what 5. Red rolled a 5 something, but it was I think it was a 5-2. And I fanned. Didn't come in. Let's see where we're at now. They've lost their market by a monstrous amount. Incredible amount. Hardly any game for me at all. I'm going to win 13% of the time, get gammon 46% of the time. So that's another reason why you cube. If you're market losers, in this case you had 19 probable market losers. Not all of them lose your market, because after you hit, blue could come in with a 5-1 or and hit or make the point or whatever. There's all kinds of good things that blue could do after the hit that would keep them in the game. But if your market losers are so huge that you would certainly give up a tremendous amount of equity gain on your next roll, that's another reason to give the cube. And this is that case. The good rolls, those 19 numbers, were monstrously good. Sometimes you're going to see your opponent has good numbers that are kind of good. They're pretty good. But here they're so huge, you have to give the cube. So Woolsey's law, Simborg's law, being able to count shots, how much do you lose your market by if you don't double, how often you lose your market. John O'Hagan's law says if you lose your market 25% of the time, you probably have a double, unless the times that you don't lose your market are pretty disastrous for you. And in this case, they weren't at all disastrous. And you lose your market way more than 25%. That's 9 out of 36 rolls. Hope this was interesting for you. Hope it was a good lesson for you. And keep the comments coming. And I'm on my way to Madison, Wisconsin, to the next ABT event. Then a couple weeks later, the middle of September, I'm sorry, the middle of the month of August, I'm going to be in San Francisco running the tournament with my good friend Tobias. It's a great tournament with a lot of good side events there, really a fun event. And then at the end of the month I will be in Pittsburgh, the next ABT event, where I will be involved in doing the Calcutta and giving a lecture. And we're going to have special programs for beginners in Pittsburgh. People who have never played before don't even have to enter the event, and I'll give them some coaching and lessons to get them familiar, so at least they can watch their husbands, wives, fathers, and mothers play and understand what's going on and maybe get interested in playing themselves. So keep those 3 events in mind coming up, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.